The Joy in Goal Setting podcast is proud to be partnered with and brought to you by The Ideal Life. The Ideal Life offers a multimedia platform that is focused on cultivating a growth mindset. Here, you'll find a supportive community of coaches, valuable online resources, and transformative courses aimed at helping you lead a more gratifying and joyful life. Ready to take the next step in your personal growth journey? Visit theideallife.com to explore their wealth of resources and join their vibrant, growing community today. Welcome to the Joy and Goal Setting podcast, where we empower individuals to discover their purpose, achieve their goals, and experience a joyful life through encouraging conversations. I'm your host, Hudson Dodds. Today, we're sitting down with James Newlands. James is an entrepreneur, sales leader, and fishing enthusiast. We discuss mentorship, startups, and how to have meaningful friendships that challenge you to be the best version of yourself. James, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Coach Dodds.
Yeah, man. We were just talking a little bit before the show about how we know each other. It's been, because we go way back.
It had to have been like 10 years now, huh?
Yeah, it feels like forever. I mean, I always talk about you and all the amazing things you've done, which we'll dive into today. But I think about our relationship growing in so many different ways, from like a teaching into a mentorship, and now to like friends and colleague, which is like kind of a cool transition. It
is really cool. I mean, when did we first start? It was a Old Testament and New Testament class at Porter Goud, which was I was a crazy kid back then, I would say. It was a lot of fun, but then it kind of transitioned into, we shared baseball, and I would always come talk to you. And at Porter Goud, I mean, I had a handful of people that I talked to in the administration, but I don't know. I think we just connected.
I think we connected on the baseball desire, but also I always tended to find people that I thought were pretty similar to me in high school, that maybe needed someone that was understanding of like folks that will enjoy success, but maybe not in like the traditional sense. And you've always been someone who've even pushed me in a lot of ways and successful and professionally. And but school is not always for everyone in the same way. And I think that me and you were similar in that way, and your friends. And I understood that, and I think it was always fun to see you grow.
That was cool. Yeah, especially back in high school. I mean, we were a crazy bunch. And you would always you would give us the guiding light, and I always had a place to come talk to you. And then when I went to college, you transitioned right into the alumni role. Mm-hmm. And then we hung out a little bit more. Maybe we wouldn't have talked again, I don't know. But from there, we had some lunches and some coffee after college, and it's just kind of fostered into this cool relationship that I don't really have many other people from Porter Goud that I talk to like that, at least on the administration side. But there was a handful. I mean, Coach Tate, I love Dr. Westerman as well. Shout out to them. I don't know if they'll ever watch this, but love you guys. You played a big role in my growing up at Porter Goud. So
yeah, man. Well, and let's dive right in there actually, because I think that's a great transition into school. So you left Porter Goud, and you went to South Carolina, and tell me about that experience, because you have in some ways a quote traditional sense, like you did a lot of the things that most folks do in college, but also you did some unique things that were very outside the bounds of what I would say is normal, that were inspiring. So I'd love to kind of hear about your school experience.
Yeah, so I mean, at Porter Goud, I didn't really challenge myself too much. I mean, I came out with like a 3.7 GPA, and I was like, I remember I went into the University of South Carolina, and my dad brought me upstairs, and he was like, all right, now you got to choose your major. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm business. Like, what does that mean? And he was like, no. These are the 7 majors that you can choose inside of business. And I was like, okay, cool. Finance. I love money. Let's work with money. And until I got there, I didn't really understand exactly what finance was. I always kind of just did what I thought was good in finance and money. I love money, to work with money and numbers. So went in and did that. And from there, I think that's where I really started to kind of grow, not only from the academic side, but also from, I started to have interests. I was in college now. I was 18 years old. I was outside of the house. My parents, they were strict because I was crazy in high school. Like, I just kind of did what I wanted. And then from there, I tried, I loved the passion for baseball, so I went to club baseball and tried that out. I always thought fraternities were kind of cool, so I tried the fraternity. School, obviously, I stayed on my academics, but I always kind of kept open to the fact that I was interested in a lot of different things, and I gelled with a lot of different people. And I never liked to just kind of pigeonhole myself into one thing, just because it just doesn't seem fun to me. I'd rather pick a few people from every single thing that I do that I love, hang out with them, and also grow with them. So, I think college was a great place for me to just kind of, one, grow up, and two, find some of the things that I was really interested in.
Yeah.
And try everything.
Well, and I would say what's unique about I think your circumstances is not just that you tried them. A lot of folks try things, but they don't finish. They don't follow through. And you followed through with baseball, and you followed through with academics, and you followed through with fraternity. And there's also a piece you haven't mentioned. I mean, you started a chartering business.
I did start a chartering business. So that was pretty interesting because COVID hadn't happened yet. And I always had a love for going on the boat and hang out with friends on the boat and just kind of an affinity for the water. And I was like, okay, I'm a sophomore now in college. I can either become a captain when I'm 6 years old and do that like everybody's passion, or I have this period of my life where I don't have work and I don't have any responsibilities really. So I was like, screw it, basically. I'm going to try and get my captain's license. Got my captain's license right before my 20th birthday. And then I called my friend up. His name's Matt Hogarty, and we had talked. And I said, listen, man, I need a first mate for this charter I'm about to run, to try and run. I have no idea what I'm going to call it, and I have no idea what I'm doing yet. And he was like, I'm in, all in. So shout out to him as well. Shout out Matt. That was amazing. He's a great person to have on board with me. But from there, we just sat down and literally came up with everything. I mean, we started the business, we did merchandising, we did marketing, we did all this, and it was in a position or in a transition into COVID. So it was actually kind of a blessing because school ended in like April, and then we could just solely focus on that. And everybody was actually trying to get out of the house here in Charleston. So we would market to our networks that we had here and just kind of spread the word. And I mean, I think we ran over 30 plus charters that year. We called it Newlands Charters. We couldn't come up with a catchier name, so we just used my last name. But,
sometimes easy is better.
Yeah. But I mean, that wasn't just running a charter, really, at that age. It was, I mean, I had the responsibility.
You learned the business.
Yeah. I mean, you learned the business, but you also had the responsibility of people's lives. We, one, had to give them a good time, but two, I had to manage, having a first mate and also manage people that maybe if you didn't catch the fish that they wanted,
how do you still give them the experience that provides the value what they're paying you for?
Yeah. I mean, some people had unrealistic expectations, and maybe I didn't set that up at first. I wasn't the best fisherman in the world, I'll say it myself, but time on the water helped me get better. But also time on the water taught me, okay, this is how I deal with people. This is what I do on the business end, what I need to set up, what's going well, what's not going well. But just communicating with people, and somebody that really stuck out to me was we had gotten off the water and we had caught like 4 or 5 fish. It was like 1 redfish and 3 sharks. And I told the person like, okay, yeah, this was awesome, blah, blah. We were looking to get paid. And he's like, I'm not going to pay you. And I was like, What do you mean you're not going to pay me? Like, we just did all this. And he's like, yeah, we're not going to do that. Like, we didn't catch what we wanted to catch. And I was like, oh, God. So here we go. Anyway, obviously, we kept professional. We talked it out. I told him, hey, this is our overhead. This is what we did. I called you the day before. These were the conditions. I laid everything out for you. Like, we have to get paid. So we ended up actually coming to a conclusion. He calmed down a little bit, but we gave him a little bit of a discount for the next time that he came on. And they ended up being one of our best customers after that. So it was kind of a cool experience with them.
Talk me through that. I mean, how old were you at that point?
When we started running charters, I had just turned 20 years old.
So you're 20 years old, 21, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming this gentleman was older than you.
They were a little bit older than us. Not too much older.
Not crazy. And they're not wanting to pay you. I'm sure they're not the nicest at this point in time. And you kind of have 2 options, right? You either like tuck tail and say, okay, fine, like what am I going to do with this? Well, I guess 3 options. Or you get angry, which is not going to get the result you want.
No.
Or you handle it in a way that is professional. And they end up becoming some of your best business.
Yeah.
What how do you think that you were able to, in that moment, in those moments, choose the right option? Choose an option that wasn't frustration, or like where does that come from? I mean, you're not 40, you haven't had all this practice and failure.
I think that honestly comes from, and I don't talk about it much, but it is a back injury that I have. So I've got 2 bulging discs in my lower half, my 2 lowest discs on my back. But that was a real struggle for me, and that took a lot of patience for a lot of time after when I was 20. But I had this transition in my head. I was kind of a hothead in high school. I still was in college a little bit. But when it came to business, I was like, okay, obviously we've got my name on this company. We've got my friend's reputation. Charleston is pretty small. Like, there's got to be a different way to handle this. Mm-hmm. There's just got to be a different way. I have to think outside the box. And actually, one of my friends, William Davis, he was also in the same high school as me, and we were roommates in college. But he had a different way of looking at things that I always tried to mimic, where he never really let people get to him. He never has. He just always had like this kind of cool, calm, and collected demeanor that I tried to follow. Like, I was a hothead. Somebody said something to me, all right, let's go, me and you, whatever. And that probably was just a representation of my own kind of self-conscious, whatever was going on in my head. I was just not confident in myself. So really, I tried to operate how he would have operated. Just relaxed and calm and collected, and just take a step back and take a breath instead of just going straight into, they're challenging me.
Right.
No, they're not challenging me. They're challenging what happened, and they're upset with
their expectations.
Yeah.
So it's not a personal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think so often learning to be the best version of ourselves is oftentimes just like witnessing other people and learning from who they are and how they manage things.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's one of those moments where you can like look back and see how it shaped you as both hardship with your back, and also like learning from, even though I mean, he's probably not your mentor, but you probably look at each other as like mentors in a lot of ways. And really do you challenge each other?
Yeah.
I think those relationships, and you're someone that has always valued community and relationships, and you see that through being able to call up a buddy and then help you with a charter, and utilizing your networks to grow and have a successful charter business at 20, 21 years old. And so you kind of run that through, you graduate from South Carolina.
Yep.
Now what? Now what do you do?
So I'll actually bring it back a little bit to being at South Carolina. Probably our junior year, my back injury was in full force. So I couldn't get out of bed really for 13, 14 hours a day. I couldn't do what I enjoyed. I played club baseball. Like, it was killing me to go play baseball. It would take me out. I'd have to take a nap for like 3 hours afterwards. I would be on the floor crying to my mom, saying like, I can't get off the ground. And both my parents are doctors, so obviously they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to work through the list. I'm getting all these tests done, and nobody could figure it out until I got this MRI, and they're like, okay, this is what's wrong with you. So that really broke me down to the core. And I say it started with chocolate milk. And William will laugh at this when he listens to it. All my roommates will, Cole, William, and Matt. But it started with chocolate milk. I mean, I was screwing around. I was drinking hard. Like, I was in a fraternity. I was in the club baseball. But I was drinking hard. I was, smoking cigarettes when I was in college. And I never smoked cigarettes. Like, what am I doing? That was like rock bottom. I remember I'd smoked a cigarette in my kind of apartment, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is bad.
How'd I get here?
How did I start smoking? And it's like not horrible, but I'm like, I'm smoking a cigarette.
Well, from
I'm
your
an athlete.
discipline of how you have been, that's pretty low. Yeah.
Yeah. So from there, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. And I told William, like, I'm dropping the fraternity. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm making these changes. And the first thing I started doing was I would clean the kitchen at night, because we were kind of a little bit messy. I would clean the kitchen at night, and my reward would be a chocolate milk. Because my dad always had chocolate milk at night, and I was like, okay, every time I do this goal, I'm going to reward myself with a little chocolate milk. And then from there, it was just small things that I would add on, small little discipline things that I would add on. And then it started transitioning into work, because I came home. I think it was my junior year. Yeah, it was my junior year for Christmas. And my parents said, okay, what are you going to do after college? I'm like, oh, crap, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do after college. So my dad, he had worked for a company called VendorMate, and he had a bunch of, they split off, the owners of that after it sold. They were vendor credentialing for hospital systems, but they split off and they all did their own things in Atlanta and started different companies, Patient Co, Cyrano. They did all sorts of different stuff, Top of Mind. So he's like, go talk to these people. And I got lucky with that. And at first I said, no, like, I want to do this myself. And I tried doing it myself for a while, and I was like, I'll just go talk to him. So I drove up to Atlanta, talked to Bird Blitch, Andy Monin, and Bill Hayes. These were the three owners of these three companies, and they were all very successful. They had exited from VendorMate, and they'd all started these companies, which 2 out of the 3 have exited again now. And they taught me, that was the baseline where it was just a different model of thinking. It was not, hey, this is, you go in and you can work at, Fortune 500 company and work your way up. And they said that there was benefits in that, but I just absorbed information from them. And I sat down, I took them to coffee, and I absorbed as much information as I possibly could, and I keep up with them still. And from there, I started kind of applying to jobs and interviewing for jobs, and I almost made it a game. So by the time I was done with college, I had 7 jobs lined up. 7 jobs lined up, and probably 5 of them I just used as interview practice. And then it came down to Boeing and Cyrano Video, which is the company I work for now. And I went to the owner of Cyrano Video, and I was like, listen, I took this job with Boeing. I'm not going to be able to make it. Like, I'm going to take this job with Boeing that's kind of more set in stone, because they were still at the startup stage at that point.
They were established, right.
Yeah. And he's like, basically said, screw that. Like, why would you do that? You will operate this way. And he had known me since I was younger. So he's like, we'll put you in this role. Go talk to your boss, Mitchell, or your colleague, Mitchell. And I was like, okay. So I went and talked with Mitchell, who is my boss, but at Cyrano Video. And from there, I was like, okay, I'm on. Like, I love the fact that they give me autonomy as a startup company to go and build basically the next vertical that they're going to do. And what Cyrano Video is it's a full solution of hardware, software, and services to allow physicians and employees and staff to get on camera to create videos more affordably and effectively inside hospital systems. So our motto is it should take 2 minutes to create a professional 2-minute video, and it should cost a fraction of time. So we take all the heavy lifting out of it, but my responsibility is the eye care industry. So at first I showed up, and it was just, I didn't know what business development was. It was my first job. I was nervous, and they're like, okay. I asked my boss, I'm like, what are we doing today?
Right.
Like, where do we go from here? He's like, dude, I have no idea.
You tell me.
I have no idea. So we were established in hospital systems, and then we moved into medical device companies and physician groups and management service organizations. And that's been the whole thing since I started. That's been the whole, hey, what do we do? What can we do? I have no idea. Try it. And we just kind of have hashed that out. And I think it's been a great thing for me, because I hate, even going back to Portugal, I hate being in the structured, like, this is what you've got to do.
You know, something that's interesting to me is thinking, and I know there's a lot of folks that are similar to you in this, but maybe haven't quite reached their potential. I think is you're someone who is very disciplined, but also likes to be outside of structure.
Yeah.
And those seem to be not in parallel, but they work really well in certain environments, right?
Yeah.
And for your job, your kind of job, it allows you to thrive because you can be disciplined enough to build something.
Yep.
But you don't need the parameters are there, but then it's go play inside the box.
Yep.
But if the box is already filled with stuff, you're gonna stay inside the lines.
Yeah.
It's gonna kill your creativity, even though you like being disciplined.
More than creativity, I think it kills my drive.
Yeah. Your excitement, your joy.
Yeah.
Your passion.
Yeah. I do get very passionate about different things, and I mean, it goes beyond the job. Like, I mean, I want to do everything that I possibly can. We have talked about this, especially talking about the ideal life, and just, we had gone through the framework that you guys had and really laid out exactly what I want to do and how to do it. And that helped me because I had never really sat down and done that. And we had talked about that. And I'm like, Coach Dodds, I need to build this confidence. There's a piece missing. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, well, I want to let's for a second, if we can, if we can go back there. I mean, I remember you and I talking before I talked to you much about what was going on here.
Yeah.
And from the outside, if I told anyone about you, I'd be like, that kid has everything together. Like, you didn't even mention the other startups you worked for and other things you've been successful with. Yeah, your own startup. You're on track with this cool company. You're doing all this stuff, and it looks like you're all put together.
Yeah.
And then we're talking, you're like, there's something missing.
Yeah.
Which is like, I think, basically anyone out here, for the most part, not everyone, but the majority of us would be similar. It's like, what's my purpose?
Yeah.
I know what I like, but what's my purpose? Why am I here? What am I doing? There's something missing. So maybe bring us back to like maybe how you got there or how you began to verbalize that. And then if you can remember kind of like not specifically the process we went through, but how that was helpful for you moving forward.
Well, I had started working, and I was working really, really hard, and I was like, okay, this should be fulfilling here. Like, we're coming to the first 6 months of working, been working hard, things are kind of happening. Why am I missing this other part? Why am I missing this other half? And I don't know if it was just something that's in me or something that everybody has, but it was just a feeling of, okay, I made it through this. I will kind of give this to my back injury. Is I made it through this really, really difficult time that I'm still working on every single day to kind of just relax and be normal. To even just sit in this chair it was hard 2 years ago. It was almost impossible. I couldn't sit through a class in college. I had to lay down and listen to them. So when I got through that, I was like, okay, I always wanted mental toughness. I always looked up to people. I thought you had it. I thought a lot of other people and mentors in my life had mental toughness. And I was like, how do you get that? How do you get that? And I don't know if it was just fate for the back injury, but I mean, I'm not going to say I don't want it to happen to me or I wish it didn't happen to me, but it's taught me a lot of things. And that's where, from that moment on, where I was able to still lift and keep myself in line and disciplined, I was like, okay, when I feel good, why don't I just take it to the next level? How far can I go? And a quote that I live by is, like him or not, Conor McGregor was saying he was curiously fascinated. He's just curiously fascinated about everything. I'm fascinated about how far I can take myself physically, mentally, emotionally, with my friends, family, girlfriend, all of that. I mean, I think that I had a really, really good friend group too. Like, we're very open and vulnerable that not many people our age or guys really may not have. So we talked about these things a lot. And even this year, once 2023 ended, we all sat down and we talked about our goals. For what do we do well in 2023 and what are we doing in 2024 to go above and beyond? And this had to do with everything that we had talked about, mental, emotional, all that. We talked about it and put it down on paper. So I would say maybe I got the ball started a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think I got the ball started because of my situation with my back.
Yeah.
So, and another thing is, I mean, coming from Portugal, and, you know, I was really fortunate to have all the resources I ever wanted, and I don't think I ever took advantage of it really until I had the back injury, and I was like, okay, it's kind of a fresh start. I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. You mentioned friends and the closeness that y'all have together, and I would second that. I think y'all have a very unique relationship with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of guys that are listening that, especially the older you get, the more difficult it is to have close friends and close guy friends that you feel like you can talk on a consistent basis, whatever that means, monthly or weekly or daily, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And about real things that matter, not just quote unquote like passion things like sports or things that whatever, but like real things, the personal things that really matter. How do you think that y'all have maintained that, and like why do you think that y'all have that? Like, where did that start from? I know it's a long time ago, so you can blame or you can claim it because you've been together for so long, and that might be true.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of friends that are friends with other friends, groups that know each other and hang out together a lot, but they don't talk about things that matter. So I don't think that's it. So maybe you can think about like, or help those with how do I get that?
So when I was younger, like Ethan Johnston, one of my good best friends for the longest time since we were young. When I was born in Charleston, moved to Chester, South Carolina, and came back to Charleston when I was 10 or 11 years old. So when I went and started at Portugal, it was just him and I. Like we were family friends because my mom had met his mom at like a Portugal intro or something. And he came to my house and I was like, who is this kid? Like, who is this kid in my house? And we kind of butted heads a little bit at first, but then we became inseparable. We just gelled. It was the weirdest thing. And my friend group didn't really grow much after that. Of course, I had friends like you're talking about, just a group of people that we hung out with, but
which is fine, by the way. Like that's normal and that's good.
Yeah.
But there's a deepness that everyone I think desires.
There is connection. There is a deepness. But we had that deepness from a young age. We just most people have one person in their life where like, this is my absolute best friend. I love this person, like hands down, love this guy. And I personally didn't have like the ability to have for lack of a better word, a relationship with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
It was either all in or all out. I trusted you all the way or I didn't trust you all the way. And that's just how I was built growing up. From there, it kind of like, I met William, same thing. We jived on a different level and we became a little bigger friend group. And then I went to college and I met Matt, same thing. And it was just kind of picking these people off year over year without even noticing it. And we became really, really good friends. And then when we would all come together, they also shared the same thought and they shared the same, really everything. We all kind of have the same thing. So it was like picking over, it took 10, 15 years.
And y'all, I mean, some of you have very similar interests. But
Yeah.
I know that some of y'all have very different interests.
Very.
But the one interest that I think is the important one, and correct me if I'm wrong, I may be overstating this, but the interest of a desire to grow personally
Yeah.
is one that all of you share. And I think that everyone would say, well, of course I'm going to grow personally. But the difference is saying I want to grow personally and I'm going to actively pursue to grow.
Yeah.
And I think y'all have that and you push each other to grow. And I think, and tell me, I mean, you chime in, but it seems like that's been one of the fulcrums of why y'all can then ask other questions of each other or go deeper in other areas because everyone knows it's not personal. Kind of like you go back to the boating story.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't personally affronting you. It was his expectations. And so the same thing is it's not a personal question if I, like when I would challenge you with things.
Yeah.
It wasn't a personal front. It was because I wanted you to grow, and you knew that I had the best interest at heart.
Yeah. I think that's kind of a hard. That's kind of a hard thing because a lot of people, especially when you have a friend group, they want to hear what they want to hear. Like a friend comes to you, you're like, oh, everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
If you just are all right. But I started to challenge that, and they would challenge it as well. We just fostered a relationship where it was kind of cool because everybody had they have a different way of operating. They may be more quiet, more open, more vulnerable, whatever it is, but we all would challenge each other on whatever was happening. So you had something with your girlfriend, right? It wasn't off the table. We're going to talk about it. And that loyalty and honesty was something that I had to have for us to be good friends. And they also had to have it to
Fully
become
open.
great friends. Yes. So just being open and vulnerable and realizing that it's not an attack at you. And it was hard for me as well, where somebody says something and you're like, well, why do they think that? Like, screw them, basically. You got to get away from that. You got to just have open conversations. And the more and more you do it, it feels kind of awkward at first. I mean, but eventually it's just not. It's just not. You guys are having real conversations. You're not just talking about sports. You're not just talking about this or that. So it's like a muscle you have to work.
Yeah.
And you can't judge anybody really for how they're feeling or what they're feeling because all my friends come from different backgrounds. So yeah, that's really how we do that.
Well, and speaking on the framework we talked about, I mean, this. There's a difference, like between we use comfortable practice and deliberate practice, and the difference is as you're pursuing the life role or your goals, comfortable practice is like kind of you doing on your own for the most part, and deliberate is it moves there when you have a coach that helps you, and in a lot of ways, your friends serve as coaches to each other in that the framework helps you pursue your purpose and helps you pursue the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And your friends, is what I'm hearing, they're interested in you pursuing the best version of yourself, and they're coaching along that way. And so you see them as like, from a sports analogy, and as we would say life coaching, but just coaching you in not a personal way, but as a I care for you way, which is really unique. And that's truly unique. And I think the statistics are out consistently on how America is becoming more lonely, and particularly men. And this loneliness it's real. It's absolutely real. And I think you said everyone has at least one best friend. I would even challenge that. I don't know if that's true. I wish that were true. And I think people might say this is my, quote, best friend, but are they having real conversations consistently? I think the answer is no.
Yeah.
I think people are seeking that. I think they're seeking that wholeheartedly. And I think when you know what you want and you know who you are, it's easier to be open and vulnerable.
Yeah.
When you don't know who you are and what you want, it's easier to fear that you will be judged, or that you are, less, like you don't add up.
Yeah.
Because when you come across someone who does know what they want, it's intimidating. And so, like, us talking through kind of like that, something's missing. What's that? There's that piece of there's something that's not there. Like, there's joy and there's peace in knowing who you want to be. Now, of course, we're not there, and we'll never get there. And there's this ideal version of who we want to be that we're all working towards. But as we have people around us, that community aspect, it's important. It's crucial to our joy and our happiness. If you want to discover how the Ideal Life's founder, Mark Condon, quit smoking, shed 80 pounds, established a thriving logistics company, and embraced the challenges of becoming an Ironman triathlete, all thanks to the framework we referenced in today's episode, order your copy of his inspiring book, The Ideal Life, today with their website or any major retailer. Begin your journey towards a fulfilling life filled with purpose and achievement.
You talk about community nowadays, and I mean, we grew up in the age right now where we were kind of the first to really test out the social media. I know everybody talks about it, was Instagram and this, and that's a false community in my head, because I know I've felt the pressure of it, and I personally got off of my Instagram. I don't get on it. I don't check it. I don't really look at it. I've got another thing that I do called Marsh Hammock, but that's just kind of exploring our chronicles inside of our friend group on the water. But I think getting off of Instagram was one of the best things for me personally, because, like I said, I have a small friend group, but I have a very, very, very strong friend group, and these are the only guys I care about. I have acquaintances, sure, I'll help you. I love you guys too, but at the end of the day, when I need to call somebody, this is what I always think of. If I'm in trouble and I need to call somebody, who am I going to call? And it's those 5 guys or 6 guys that I have. So I worry about them. We all don't have that much time anyway after work, especially after college. So why would I put any more time towards anybody else other than the people that really care about me? That's my friends, my family, my girlfriend. I don't care about anything else. Yeah. And really, I listened to a podcast where a guy, it was a billionaire, and he said when he was growing up at first, like, he wanted everybody to like him. And then when he got a little bit older, he realized, he's like, I don't care if anybody likes me. He's like, he didn't really care what people thought. And when he got even older, when he was in his 70s, he said, well, at the end of the day, nobody really cared. Nobody cared. I didn't care. Nobody cared. Everybody cared about themselves.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's pretty powerful to me. Why would I put so much effort and extend myself to so many people when I only have limited amount of time? And what is it? I think there's like 180 people that you can really keep track of. You've got 1,000, 2,000 people on Instagram. How you can't keep track of them, and you're constantly comparing yourself. I think it's like 150,
but yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 150.
Right. No, and to your point, focusing on the relationships that matter, and caring about those folks. And like you said, it doesn't mean that we're selfish. It doesn't mean that we're not kind and helpful, and we want to see other people that we don't interact with consistently do well, because of course we do. There's joy to be found there, but taking care of yourself allows you to take care of other people.
Yeah.
And that's not overextending yourself, absolutely. Well, you talked a lot about perseverance and discipline. Mm-hmm. Where do you think that comes from?
I mean, in high school, I didn't really have it. Didn't have perseverance or discipline. I had the opportunity to go play some college ball. I had a couple offers, didn't pursue those ones because they were smaller D3, but I never really actually pushed myself to do anything at that age. But I didn't exceed, but I still was above average in a way. On the field, in the classroom, I wasn't horrible. I just never pushed myself. And then after I'd had the injury and I had started to see some success just in the business side of things, because I had run the charter and I just did it without even thinking about it. I just thought, oh, charter would be cool. I want to run this. But it had so many things after that. And I always watch things where people are 30 or 40 years old and they're like, this is what I regret. This is what I wish I did. And I hate the feeling of regret. So my motto is, the pain from discipline is a lot less worse than the pain from regret. And that's kind of what I've lived by since then. It's not like you can just turn it on either. It's very, very difficult. Like you said, from an outside sense, yeah, things may all be put together. It's not. It took hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of steps, and it's going to take thousands and thousands beyond that. Like you said, you're never going to reach the goal that you want, really. So I just think adding these little things in and adding these little things in, and then also being curious at how far can I take it? Why not? I remember I talked with some friends from high school, and I said, yeah, I want to make $30 to $50 million. That's what I want to do. Why not? And they kind of, laughed at me a little bit, and I was like, okay, like, we'll see. Why not? First of all, for me to you, why not? Why are you limiting yourself at 22, 23 years old? If that's my goal, fine. If you've got the passion for it, I would believe somebody the same way. I would hope for them to do the same thing. And some people say it's not a healthy way of doing it, but I use the doubt from people. I almost seek it sometimes because I do put out some crazy things. And there's no better feeling for me than saying I'm going to do something and then going out and doing it.
Yeah.
And eventually people start to quiet down a little bit, but then you go to a crazier goal and a crazier goal and a crazier goal. And that's how I've just operated since then.
Well, there's reward in achieving the goal, right? I mean, there's like real science behind that. We know that with the chemicals that are released. And I think what we talked about a lot, and I think that was the idea of the missing piece to a degree, is $30-50 million is awesome. So that what? Yeah. Right. Like if that's just the goal, then you reach it and like, well, now what? Right. Yeah. But like, there's got to be that when you reach it, not if you do, but when you reach that, that's only helping you become the version of yourself that you want to be in X way. And we talked all about that. But I think it's those crazy goals. We call them dream goals, and they're important. They're what keeps us aligned with the version we want to be as we wake up each day and say, why am I doing this? Okay, it's because when I'm 85, I want to have a family compound. We all get together and, we celebrate vacations together in these amazing places. That's why I'm be at $30-50 million.
Exactly.
Right? Not just so I can have it. Yes. But it's got to align with the person I want to be, which is a family, whatever it is, right?
That's true.
And it's similar to what we talked about, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the people around me, from the outside, sure, people are like, oh, you just want $30 or $50 million, whatever. That's the goal that I have, but it's really not money. Like you said, it is building a foundation where everybody around me has the opportunities that they want. I have all the opportunities that I want, and I can pursue, because growing up, I had the opportunity to pursue anything I wanted and didn't have the constraint, very thankfully, of money. And I have a lot of friends and I have a lot of people in my life that maybe were constrained by that and could have done things that if it were for money, they would have been able to.
Right.
Or weren't for money. So it goes a lot deeper than that. And, you say perseverance and discipline. I think another thing is a lot of people will use this doubt as a means to take it to the next level, kind of. And that's exactly what I do. I don't think everybody feels that way, but I take it personally. I always have. And it almost kind of gets me a little riled up and a little angry. But I had heard
it's a competitive nature a little bit.
It is a competitive nature. And since I can't play sports or anything,
right,
this is how I compete. This is how I compete now. So when I take it personally, I think of it as like water behind a dam. You can get angry and the water can overflow beyond the dam and basically destroy the village, or you can run that water through the turbine and power it. So I run all that anger through the turbine. It's not like I'm sitting there like, oh my God, but somebody doubts me. I remember I had a friend, like it wasn't too serious, but it was going into 2023 and I was coaching for the middle school baseball team for Moultrie. I had been doing my MBA, I had work, and I was upgrading to my master captain's license, all in the same 4-month period to start. He's like, dude, I don't know if you're going to be able to do this. That's a lot of work. You sure about that? He wasn't really getting on my case, but he was saying, like, you sure you got this? Yeah. And I just printed out a picture of him, and I kind of made up a quote. I was
Challenge
like,
accepted.
Yeah. Printed out a picture. I put it on my desk, and I used that every single day for months. And it was kind of foolish, but that's what gets me going. Yeah.
That's a trip. So did you finish your master's in
So I
captaincy?
finished my master. I finished my master upgraded license. We ran the Moultrie Middle School baseball team. I was the head coach. We were supposed to be the worst team on Mount Pleasant. We were the best team on Mount Pleasant. We were 11-3. And then continued to work on my MBA, which I'll be done with this year, and then work. I mean, just grinding on that. So
it's exciting.
It is exciting. It was exciting. And it was fun to push myself. That's another thing. Always trying to push myself further than what I think I'm capable of.
Yeah.
I know when I feel uncomfortable, like
it's in a good space.
It's in a good spot.
Yeah, and that's we talk a lot about how the flow state zone is getting just outside your comfort zone, not too far for too long because burnout.
Yeah, I remember that.
But getting out and coming back in, right? Slowly, like just outside and then coming back in. And that's exactly right. Like if you're not outside, if you're gonna get bored.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna grow. The only way to grow is to get outside that comfort zone just enough, and then come back and forth. Well, man, it's been so fun catching up and hearing about everything. And thanks for coming in.
Yes, sir.